Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're looking at Starbridge Connecting the Universe.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to read it?
I have, yeah. It's a really fascinating conversation.
Yeah, so for our listeners who haven't heard of it, it's this fictional conversation between a top Chinese aerospace engineer,
Sun Jiadong?
Jiadong, right? And then
Mhm.
there's the science-loving student Xiaohong and an American exchange student named Jack.
Interesting mix.
Yeah, it really is. So we're going to be kind of unpacking their different perspectives on China's space program, the future of space travel, and what it all means for us back here on Earth.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, so what I found really interesting about this is that you have these three different characters, and they kind of represent different generations and different approaches to space exploration.
Yeah, and you see that play out right from the beginning, don't you?
Yeah. Right away, Xiaohong asks Sun Jiadong what he would take to Mars.
Simple question.
Yeah, you would think so, but the answers are actually really revealing.
Oh, definitely. Sun Jiadong's choices are a Chinese flag,
Okay.
a copy of the Analects,
Interesting.
and a photo of Earth.
Wow.
It's really symbolic.
Right?
This isn't just about scientific exploration for him.
Right.
It's about extending China's cultural influence into the cosmos.
That's a really good point. And then you have Jack, who would bring a laptop and a satellite phone.
Of course he would.
Yeah, it's like you can practically see the business plan forming in his head.
Exactly. And that kind of highlights a key tension that runs throughout the conversation.
Yeah.
Is space going to be a domain of national pride, as Sun Jiadong believes, or will it become this kind of commercially driven frontier like Jack envisions?
And what does that mean for the rest of us, right?
Huge question.
So many huge questions.
And then it kind of leads into this discussion of the value of rocket science itself.
Right.
And, Sun Jiadong really emphasizes those classic STEM skills.
Mm-hmm.
Math, physics, problem solving.
Makes sense.
He ties it directly to China's space achievements.
Yeah, it's like a very traditional approach, but a powerful one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then Jack jumps in and he has a different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really emphasizes critical thinking and an entrepreneurial mindset.
And he would.
Yeah.
He sees the value in that.
Right. And he draws a parallel to American educational approaches and the role of private companies like SpaceX.
Yeah. So is it government programs? Is it private enterprise?
Yeah.
Or is it both?
I think it's both playing a part for sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And then they bring up the question of how can ordinary people contribute to space exploration?
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, because you don't have to be an astronaut
Not at all.
to be involved.
Right. Sun Jiadong talks about supporting space programs, spreading scientific knowledge, and appreciating the everyday benefits of space technology.
Right.
He uses the Beidou navigation system as an example.
Oh, yeah.
China's version of GPS,
Right.
which has all sorts of practical applications here on Earth.
Yeah, it's like space exploration is not just this far off endeavor.
Yeah.
It's actually impacting our lives right now.
Absolutely. And Jack offers a more market-driven perspective, as you
Yeah.
might expect.
Yeah.
He talks about investing in commercial space companies, participating in crowdfunding projects, or even buying space tourism tickets when they become available.
It's like he's saying space is open for business and everyone can get in on the action.
Exactly. But that brings up another important question.
Yeah.
As we venture further into space,
Uh-huh.
what ethical considerations should guide our actions?
Right, because it's not just a free-for-all.
Exactly. And the conversation in this text specifically touches on the question of what to do if we discover life on Mars.
Okay.
Because what happens then?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And the responses are interesting because they really highlight the conflicts we might face.
Uh-huh.
Sun Jiadong is very much advocating for respecting potential Martian life.
That makes sense.
He emphasizes China's commitment to peaceful exploration
Okay.
and environmental protection.
Right.
He even cites the Tianwen-1 mission
Mhm.
as an example.
So he's approaching it with a sense of caution and responsibility.
I would say so, but Jack sees it through a different lens.
Yeah, he probably does. What does he say?
Well, he brings up the scientific and commercial perspectives.
Okay.
What if we can learn from Martian life?
Interesting.
What if there are resources we could use?
He would think that.
He advocates for international cooperation,
That's good.
but he doesn't shy away from the economic opportunity.
Of course not.
And then there's the whole question of the environmental impact of space travel right here on Earth.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and it's a big concern that kind of weaves its way through the entire conversation.
Right, like we want to explore space, but we don't want to destroy our own planet in the process.
Exactly. And it's interesting to see how both sides approach potential solutions.
Okay.
Sun Jiadong highlights China's efforts to develop more environmentally friendly rocket fuel,
I see.
like that used in the Long March 5 rocket.
Okay.
So they're basically saying, we're going to space, but we're going to try to do it responsibly.
Yeah, I like that. And Jack.
Oh, Jack always sees opportunity
Right.
in innovation.
Uh-huh.
He points to SpaceX's development of reusable rockets as an example of how private companies can drive down costs
Okay.
and lessen their environmental impact.
Competition breeds efficiency.
It really does.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we make it to Mars or the Moon.
Uh-huh.
We've got settlements.
Mm.
What happens to our cultures?
That's a big one.
Yeah, and their answers are fascinating.
I bet.
Sun Jiadong really pictures Chinese schools on the moon.
Okay.
You know, traditional festivals being celebrated,
Uh-huh.
even drawing inspiration from Chinese mythology.
Wow. So he's like bringing his culture with him.
Yeah, it's like cultural continuity.
That's really interesting. And Jack.
Jack's different. He emphasizes multiculturalism.
Okay.
He talks about how the International Space Station has astronauts from all over the world
Right.
celebrating each other's holidays.
Yeah.
And he kind of sees space colonies as these melting pots of cultures.
That's cool.
So, you know,
Is it about preserving existing cultures or creating something entirely new?
yeah. What does that even look like?
Really interesting questions. And of course, we can't talk about space exploration without talking about the cost.
The elephant in the room?
Yeah. Is it worth it? A lot of people are asking that question.
And Sun Jiadong and Jack have different takes on it.
They probably do.
Sun Jiadong is very much in the yes camp.
I bet.
He points to all the technological advancements that come from these space programs
Right.
and the economic benefits.
Uh-huh.
He even talks about the Beidou system and how it can be used for things like precision agriculture,
Oh, wow.
which could help us grow more food here on Earth.
That's really interesting.
So yeah, it's expensive,
Yeah.
but the payoff can be huge.
Right. And Jack.
Oh, Jack focuses on the potential of the space economy.
Yeah. What does he say?
He predicts $1 trillion market,
Wow.
fueled by all these commercial space companies offering things like satellite launches and space tourism.
I mean, that's a really bold vision.
It is.
He sees space becoming accessible to not just astronauts, but to everyday people.
Right. But even with all that potential, there are still some huge challenges to overcome
I bet.
before we can make Mars or the Moon our second home.
Yeah, for sure. Which brings us to another part of their conversation. What's it actually going to be like living on Mars?
Right. What would it be like?
And they kind of go into that.
They do. And Sun Jiadong acknowledges the difficulties.
Like what?
You've got low gravity.
Right.
You've got to figure out how to get water and food.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the psychological impact of being so far from Earth.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. But he doesn't let those challenges deter him.
Good.
He remains optimistic.
Okay.
He points to the potential for advancements in technology,
Uh-huh.
like those being developed through China's space program.
Right.
He specifically mentions the Tianwen-1 mission, which is gathering data about the Martian environment and resources.
So it's like he's not just dreaming about it. He's actually looking for solutions.
He is. And then you have Jack, who sees those same challenges
Right.
as opportunities.
Yeah.
Remember, he's the entrepreneur of the group.
Yeah, he's always looking for ways to turn problems into profit.
Always. And in this case, he envisions Mars as a destination for extreme sports
Okay.
and adventure tourism.
Ah.
He argues that those activities could generate revenue and accelerate the development of Martian infrastructure.
I mean, it's a pretty wild idea, but it's not totally outside the realm of possibility.
Right. Makes you think, what kind of person would actually choose to leave Earth
Yeah.
and build a life on Mars?
And what would their day-to-day existence even look like?
Yeah, how would they stay connected to everything and everyone they left behind?
It's crazy to think about.
So many questions.
And finally, the conversation wraps up with each character being asked to design their ideal rocket for the future.
I love that part.
Yeah, it's like we get to see what their hopes and dreams are.
Their vision for space exploration.
Yeah, and their ideas are so different.
They really are. Sun Jiadong, the diplomat.
Mm-hmm.
He envisions a peace envoy rocket.
Wow.
He wants it to be a symbol of international collaboration,
I like that.
using cost-reducing reusable technology to make space exploration accessible to the entire world.
That's beautiful.
It really is.
So you have Peace Envoy from Sun Jiadong and then Xiaohong.
Xiaohong the dreamer. She calls her rocket the Dream Rocket.
So cute.
It's not just about transporting humans to Mars. It's about carrying the building blocks of life itself.
Wow, she's thinking big.
She is. Very much in line with her previous ideas.
And Jack.
Well, ever the businessman Jack designs a commercial rocket.
I knew it.
It's all about efficiency and profit.
Uh-huh.
It can transport passengers, cargo.
Oh.
It can even assemble itself into space hotels or research labs,
Wow.
depending on the market demand.
That is impressive.
A very practical vision.
Yeah, but here's the thing. These three visions, they're not necessarily at odds with each other.
That's true.
They can all coexist, maybe even complement each other.
Absolutely.
It's like we need the peacemakers. We need the dreamers.
Yeah.
And we need the entrepreneurs.
To really unlock the potential of space exploration.
Absolutely.
I think that's a key takeaway from this entire conversation.
What is that?
The future of space isn't going to be shaped by any one ideology or any one approach.
Right.
It's going to be a collaborative effort,
Yeah.
a tapestry woven from many different threads.
And what does that mean for us back here on Earth?
Well, it means that we all have a role to play
Right.
in shaping that future.
It's not just up to the scientists or the engineers or the billionaires.
It's up to all of us.
So how do we do that?
I think it starts with staying informed
Okay.
and engaged,
Uh-huh.
learning about the different perspectives,
Right.
the challenges,
Yeah.
and possibilities.
Mhm.
It's about having those tough conversations about ethics
Yeah,
and sustainability.
for sure.
It's about supporting the people and the organizations
Right.
that are working to make space exploration more accessible,
Yes.
more inclusive,
Uh-huh.
and more beneficial to all of humanity.
I love that.
It's about thinking critically, asking tough questions,
Yeah.
and demanding better from our leaders.
Yes. And most importantly, I think it's about never losing sight of the wonder
Yeah.
and the awe
Uh,
that space exploration inspires in all of us.
absolutely, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's what drives us forward.
It really is.
That's what makes this whole endeavor worthwhile.
So we've only just scratched the surface here.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much more to explore
Uh-huh.
in this conversation from Starbridge Connecting the Universe.
Absolutely.
We're going to pick it up right where we left off in part 2 of this deep dive.
Looking forward to it. Picking up where we left off. I think it's worth kind of highlighting that despite their different visions for space exploration, there's a common thread that ties all three characters together.
Yeah, I'm curious, what's that?
Ultimately, they all believe that space exploration should serve the betterment of humanity.
Okay.
They might disagree on the hows, but the why is the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like they're all striving towards the same goal, but they're taking different paths to get there.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point to remember as we kind of move forward with this conversation.
Uh-huh.
Space exploration isn't just about claiming territory or achieving scientific milestones.
Right.
It's about using our knowledge and resources to solve problems and create a better future for everyone.
I like that. So how does this conversation apply to us here and now? I mean, we're not designing rockets or planning missions to Mars.
Right. I think the takeaway here is that we all have a stake in the future of space exploration.
Okay.
It's not just something happening out there that has nothing to do with us.
So you're saying we're all connected to it somehow?
Absolutely. Our choices matter.
Okay.
How we spend our money, what technologies we support,
Mm-hmm.
even the stories we tell about space.
Right.
All of these things contribute to shaping the future of space exploration.
So even if we never leave Earth, our actions have an impact.
Exactly. It's like casting a vote.
I see.
Every decision we make, big or small, is a vote for the kind of future we want to see.
That's a really powerful way to think about it.
Yeah.
It makes space exploration feel less like a spectator sport and more like something we're actively participating in.
And that's why it's so important to be informed and engaged,
Right.
to understand the different perspectives,
Yeah.
and to think critically about the choices we make.
Speaking of different perspectives, the conversation in Starbridge Connecting the Universe gets really interesting when they start talking about what life on Mars might actually be like.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right.
I think that's where the practical challenges and the ethical considerations really come to the forefront.
Right, because it's one thing to dream about living on Mars. It's another thing to actually do it.
Absolutely.
So what do they say?
Well, Sun Jiadong is pretty realistic about the difficulties of living on Mars.
Okay.
He talks about adapting to low gravity, figuring out how to grow food,
Right.
even the psychological impact of being so far from home.
Yeah. It's a long way.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't let those challenges deter him.
Good.
He remains optimistic.
Okay.
And he points to the potential for advancements in technology, like those being developed through China's space program.
I see.
He specifically mentions the Tianwen-1 mission,
Right.
which is gathering valuable data about the Martian environment and resources.
It's like he's not just dreaming about it, he's actively looking for
He
solutions.
is. And then you have Jack,
Yeah.
who sees those same challenges as opportunities.
Well, of course he
So,
does.
he's the entrepreneur of the group.
Always looking for an angle.
Yeah, he's always looking for a way to turn problems into profit.
That's Jack.
Yeah. And in this case, he envisions Mars as a destination for extreme sports and adventure tourism.
Okay.
He argues that these activities could actually generate revenue and accelerate the development of Martian infrastructure.
I mean, it's a bold idea.
It is.
And while it might seem far-fetched, it does raise some interesting questions.
Yeah, what are those?
Would people actually pay to go on a one-way trip to Mars? What kind of psychological profile would a Martian settler need to have?
That's a good one.
And how would Martian society even govern itself?
Right. Would it be an extension of Earth's political systems?
Uh-huh.
Or would something entirely new emerge?
That's crazy to think about.
It really is. I love how this fictional conversation is sparking so many real-world questions.
Me too. It's really making me think about the future in a whole new way.
That's the beauty of good science fiction, you know?
Yeah.
It takes us beyond the realm of the possible
Uh-huh.
and forces us to confront the potential consequences of our actions.
Speaking of consequences, one of the things that really struck me about this conversation
Yeah.
is how they all seem to agree that space exploration needs to be done responsibly.
Absolutely. They all acknowledge the environmental impact of space travel
Uh-huh.
and the need to find sustainable solutions.
We talked about this a bit earlier,
Yeah.
but I'm curious to hear more about their specific ideas.
Okay, well, Sun Jiadong really emphasizes the importance of international cooperation,
Okay.
sharing knowledge to find solutions that benefit everyone.
Makes sense.
He also highlights China's efforts to develop more environmentally friendly rocket fuel.
Right, like we're all in this together.
Exactly. And Jack, being the capitalist,
Uh,
believes that market forces can also drive innovation in this area.
okay.
He points to SpaceX's development of reusable rockets as an example.
Right.
The idea being that if you can reduce costs, you can reduce waste.
So both government-led initiatives and private companies have a role to play in making space exploration more sustainable.
I think that's a key takeaway here.
Right.
It's not an either-or proposition.
Right.
We need a diversity of approaches if we want to find solutions that work for everyone.
Yeah, the more minds working on the problem, the better.
Exactly. And that brings us to a really crucial point that often gets overlooked in these discussions about space exploration.
What's that?
The importance of storytelling.
Storytelling? I'm not sure I follow.
Well, think about it.
Right.
How do we inspire people to care about space exploration?
Mm-hmm.
How do we convince them that it's worth investing in?
I see what you're getting at. It's not just about the science and technology. It's
Right.
about the human element.
Exactly. We need stories that capture the imagination,
Yeah.
that make us feel connected to this grand endeavor,
Uh-huh.
that remind us why space exploration matters.
And that's what I love about Starbridge Connecting the Universe.
Yeah.
It's not just a dry technical discussion.
Right.
It's a story with compelling characters who are grappling with real-world challenges and ethical dilemmas.
And through their conversations, we get a glimpse of what the future of space exploration might hold, both the good and the bad.
It's a good reminder that the choices we make today will have a profound impact on the world of tomorrow.
And that's a message worth repeating.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, the opportunities, the ethical considerations of space exploration.
We have.
But I'm still left wondering, what does it all mean for the average person? How do we make sense of this vast, complex undertaking?
That's a great question. And I think the answer lies in understanding that space exploration isn't just about reaching new destinations.
Okay.
It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible, expanding our understanding of the universe,
Right.
and ultimately learning more about ourselves.
Wow, that's pretty profound.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's why space exploration continues to fascinate us.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of our own curiosity,
Right.
our desire to explore,
Yeah.
our innate need to make sense of the world around us.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what's next for us on this deep dive?
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still so much more to unpack in Starbridge Connecting the Universe.
Okay.
In part 3, we'll delve into the final chapter of the conversation
Sounds good.
and explore some of the key takeaways for the future of space exploration.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Starbridge Connecting the Universe. We've covered so much ground already.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing how much there is to unpack in this conversation.
Yeah, it's really got me thinking about the future of space exploration in a whole new way.
Me too. And in this final chapter, they're all asked to imagine designing their own rocket for the future.
Yeah, I remember that part. What did they come up with?
Well, it gets really interesting because it's not just about the technical specs of the rocket.
Right. It's about what their designs represent, what they hope to achieve.
Exactly. It's almost like you get a glimpse into their souls.
Okay, so let's start with Sun Jiadong. What kind of rocket does he envision?
He calls his rocket the Peace Envoy.
Interesting name.
It's designed to be a symbol of international collaboration, using cost-reducing reusable technology so that,
To make it more affordable.
yeah, to make space exploration more accessible to other countries.
It's like he's saying space is for everyone, not just the superpowers.
Exactly. And it really speaks to his belief in the power of space exploration to unite humanity in a common goal.
I love that. And what about Xiaohong? What kind of rocket does she design?
Well, remember, she's the one who wants to bring plant and animal seeds to Mars.
Oh, yeah, she wants to create a whole new ecosystem.
Right, whole new
So
world.
what does her rocket look like?
She calls it the Dream Rocket. And it's not just about transporting humans to Mars. It's about carrying the building blocks of life itself.
It's a very hopeful vision.
It really is. Like, even in the face of all these challenges, she still believes in the possibility of creating something new and beautiful out there.
It's inspiring. And what about Jack? What does he come up with?
Well, ever the businessman, Jack designs what he calls the commercial rocket.
Okay.
It's all about adaptability and versatility.
In what way?
Well, it can transport passengers.
Okay.
It can transport cargo.
Mm-hmm.
It can even assemble itself into space hotels
Wow.
or research labs.
Really?
Yeah, depending on what the market demands.
That's pretty amazing. It's like he's saying space is going to be the next big business frontier.
Exactly, and he wants to be ready for it.
But here's the thing. I think all three of these visions, they can all work together.
I think so too.
It's not like it has to be one or the other.
Right, we need the peacemakers,
Mhm.
the dreamers,
Yeah.
and the entrepreneurs.
If we want to make space exploration a truly collaborative and sustainable endeavor,
I think that's a really powerful message, and I think that's what makes this conversation so important.
it shows us that the future of space exploration is not predetermined.
Right, it's something that we're all creating together.
Through our choices, our actions, our beliefs,
It's a reminder that space exploration is not just about rockets and technology.
it's about humanity.
Yeah, it's about our hopes and dreams, our fears and aspirations.
It's about what kind of future we want to create for ourselves and for generations to come.
And I think that's something worth thinking about, whether you're a scientist, an engineer, a dreamer, or just someone who looks up at the stars and wonders.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Starbridge connecting the universe, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay, I'm listening.
What kind of rocket would you design? What's your vision for the future of space exploration?
That's a great question. It's one that we should all be asking ourselves.
Because the future is not written yet. We have the power to shape it.
And who knows, maybe someday one of our listeners will be the one designing the rockets that take us to the stars.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep looking up.